He was. He was still him.
I feel like once he went down to bantamweight, he was not him. Welcome back, everybody. We got another episode of Road to Gold, episode 11. Here with my man Ron, here to talk about some UFC, man. Ron, how's it going?
You know, took a week off. We're back to the grindstone. UFC's back. I believe we have a few decent cards coming up this summer. Dana's definitely did a decent job, at least.
No, for sure. Like you said, had last week off after UFC 300. It was an epic card. You know, they had to let us down gently. So we took last week off. We got UFC Vegas 91 coming up. I'm not gonna lie, this card it may leave a little to be desired. I'm not gonna lie. This is something we've seen in the UFC recently with all these mega pay-per-views. Some of these fight nights are lacking a little bit. What do you think of this latest card?
Look, man, they took us on a roller coaster going into 300. It was 300 was maybe the best thing we've seen maybe ever. They said, we'll give you guys a week off to recover, talk about it a little bit, and now you give us this. I don't know if this is what we wanted to get. You could have maybe added, even if it's an old head, just give me a household name to throw in there, just cause maybe. Not my favorite card, but a card nonetheless.
There's definitely some sleepers on this card. Don't get me wrong, we're gonna get to those. But yeah, I mean, just looking back at just some of the cards this year, obviously UFC 299 was a mega heater. The last two pay-per-views have been mega heaters. We had that, obviously, 300, even the Volkanovski versus Ilya. Like, we've had some cards. The Sean Strickland versus Duplessis card left a lot to be desired. The pay-per-views typically deliver, but some of these fight nights, man, they leave a little to be desired. But like I said, we got some sleepers on these cards, got some vets, got some tough participants. We're gonna talk about a few of them. Like I said, it's not a lot to talk about, but definitely some sleepers to talk about. So why don't we get into UFC 91 Vegas? First fight I want to talk about is a fight in the women's department. We got Ariane Litsky versus Karine Silva. And this, I think, should be fight of the night. These are two low-key savage women,
for sure,
that are not afraid to trade. I know Ariana, I think she kind of edges her out with the combos in the crispness, but Karine has the power. She's a savage. So I don't know. I think this could be a firework fight. What are your initial thoughts?
This is definitely an interesting matchup. One woman, like you said, it's a firecracker. The other one is really just as good, can get submission wins whenever she wants. This is, like you said, fight of the night, definitely possible here. They're both really savages at the end of the day. To be honest, like, it's just kind of a fight that you just sit back and enjoy. There's gonna be technical skill there for sure. If it goes to the ground, I think they're both. I don't want to give the edge to anybody. I think they're both pretty decently evenly matched. Just because there was of course I believe it was Lipsky who I believe it was Lipsky who her last 3 fights were all by sub, or if it was
Silva.
You're right.
Her last 5.
Her last 5 wins are all by submission, which is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the competition she was fighting, it definitely looked like she was better than them though at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Where I don't think it will be as simple when facing Lipsky, because Lipsky, I believe, is definitely capable on the ground. Lipsky throws a lot more combos though when it comes to the striking department. where Silva kind of, it's a lot of hooks being thrown out there, which can be exciting. But I think the combos might wear her down over the course of the fight. Where if the fight was to go towards Silva, it may be an earlier knockout, or it could be somehow a clinch situation turns takedown, turns to submission, maybe. But definitely, I think it's gonna be an exciting fight. I think I'm with you on that fight. That might possibly for sure.
For sure. And I think that's another aspect that I was really impressed by, is that they're both so crisp on the feet, but then if it goes to the ground, I saw Lipsky, I saw her submit Casey O'Neill.
Yeah,
Casey O'Neill is a pretty seasoned vet. Like she's pretty,
I'll give it that. Yep.
like she's pretty seasoned. So it's pretty interesting to see how she's gonna do in that department. Then Silva, like we've talked about, her last five, although like you said, some of her competition, she wasn't in the UFC yet. She was on Dana White's Contender Series. Some of those, whatever. But hey, submissions are submissions, finishes are finishes.
Finish is a finish.
It's really interesting right now. Silva is the favorite. If you had to lean one way, where are you leaning?
I appreciate really good looking striking, so I want to go towards Lipsky because it's just sharper. I love good combinations. They're thrown with purpose. Um, I believe this fight doesn't go to the scorecards. I think someone gets tapped or knocked out here, and I'm gonna go Lipsky by knockout.
Okay. She's plus 140, so that's very interesting, man. I don't know. This is a tough one. Like you said, I do appreciate her quick combos. But one thing I think could get her in trouble is, and it's a theme we've been talking about a lot lately with the BMF, with people standing 10 toes down.
Yeah.
Ariana's a gamer. She is a gamer. If you challenge her, she will stay in the pocket. She will trade. She does not want to get taken advantage of in any way. If she gets a lick, she just has to get that lick back. So that could not go in her favor because, like you said, Cream has that power.
She does.
She has the ability to put her down with a single strike. Hopefully, the trading doesn't go in that way for her. I think I'm going to agree with you in this case. I agree. I think her combinations is just too crisp. And one thing I really like that she does is she'll follow up all of her combos with a head kick.
Yeah, I do like that.
It's just it's what you want to see. So we'll have to pay attention to that. These are definitely some interesting fights for the division. Not necessarily in play now, but for down the line, could be interesting. We can move on to the next fight. Should be, an impactful one. Light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Yuskov. Two heavy guys, two heavy hitters. Ryan Spann, who's had an up and down career in the UFC. He's had some great finishes, but he's also been finished.
For sure.
Has a chance to right all of his wrongs here against an up and comer in Bogdan, who is newer to the organization, but has notched a UFC win under his belt. What do you think here?
Let's throw Bogdan here because I had to do a little research on him to kind of get a good feel. Yeah, and he's a threat. He's definitely a threat. He has 12 knockout wins and 2 subs with 12 first round finishes. He definitely has the capability to take out someone like Ryan Spann. But don't get it wrong though, because Ryan Spann actually is a pretty solid fighter. He gets himself in situations that I sometimes kind of look at and don't understand how it happens to him, especially considering he's a really good grappler, jiu-jitsu guy. He goes for very meaningful submissions. Like he's not just holding on for you for position. It's usually for a purpose. And I mean, you look at him, you can see that the skill is there, but he just sometimes just gets caught up in situations. And it's kind of annoying because you kind of sit back and think like, I know you're better than this, but here we are in the situation. And then his striking, he's powerful. He can get in your face. He looks for opportunities. He's very opportunistic. He'll go for hooks, overhands. He'll go for takedowns whenever he feels that he kind of has you off balance a little bit. It just comes down to him getting out of his own way. Because you see guys with like submission skill like Ryan Spann does, typically, you know they're very skilled, but don't get caught up in what you're doing so much that you lose track of your opponent and the fact that they have your leg hooked or they have an arm trapped or maybe a triangle arm, like a guillotine, something just kind of happens to him. And it's like, bro, like why didn't you, like, I get it. You were trying to go for the back maybe, but why didn't you see that coming? Like, if he can stay consistent, he has an opportunity here. We just don't know what Ryan Spann we're going to get.
And I think that's the issue, is the inconsistency. Like you said, we don't know which Ryan Spann we're going to get. Are we going to get the Dominic Reyes first round knockout Ryan Spann, or are we going to get him losing by decision to Anthony Smith?
Right.
Which, two valid opponents, don't get me wrong, but, and I might sound like an Anthony Smith hater here, if I'm in the top 10, I'm not losing to Anthony Smith. That's not somebody you should be losing to if you have championship aspirations.
I agree.
And again, so what?
I agree.
No, I don't want to seem like an Anthony Smith hater or anything. He's just similar to a Neil Magny, similar to some of these other guys. He's a gatekeeper for that. And unfortunately, Ryan Spann couldn't get past him. But like you said, he has a chance to right all of his wrongs here. I guess, what is his path to victory here? I mean, he's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's powerful. Like, where should he go here?
Naturally, you would think he's probably going to test the striking out a little bit, just naturally, because he's not afraid to strike. He's not a guy who just wants to just take you down as soon as the fight starts and just immediately go for positions. He's not that kind of guy. He's going to probably strike a little bit, but ultimately, he's going to go for a takedown from the clinch like that eventually. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You would think this fight goes submission for Ryan Spann, maybe some ground and pound action somewhere. If he shows up to fight, that's exactly how it should go. Naturally, I would think anybody would think, oh, this should be a Ryan Spann win, which, I mean, I think we all would agree that's how the fight probably should go. Will he be the Ryan Spann that can show up and actually look like he wants to be a contender? That's what it comes down to. And I'm gonna go Ryan Spann. I'm gonna go Ryan Spann second round. Honestly, I believe this should be a second round, early second round at that. You should pick him apart very soon. That's how I think it should go, personally.
I mean, it definitely sounds good. He's facing a hungry guy, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to agree with you. I think these last two losses that he's had have kind of woken him up and showed him that he should play to his strengths. I think sometimes these fighters, they get caught up in the moment. They don't play to their strengths.
They think you're Charles. You're not.
You said who?
You think you're Charles.
Well, we don't want to.
Oh, says, yeah, that's not going on that path. Actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah. Anyways,
I forgot.
Either way, you got to use your advantages. Maybe he'll do that this week. We'll see. He's ranked 11th in light heavyweight, so he's still very much a player. Although light heavyweight's it's very unserious. I mean,
if you're not top 5, yeah.
Dominic Reyes is still 14, and he hasn't won a fight since 2002. So, I mean, Anthony Smith is 10. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna say he has a path to the belt, because I don't think he is. I think there's levels to the divisions, the top 15. We throw him in with guys like Pereira, Yuri, Jan Blachowicz. I just don't see him being victorious in those situations.
Definitely agree.
I mean, he's lost to Anthony Smith twice, so I can't even say I want him to fight Anthony Smith again. But I could see him facing an Alonzo Menifield, Maybe throw him in there with Johnny Walker. I mean, Johnny Walker's kind of unserious. I mean, I don't know how serious he's taking this.
I
So
feel you on that one. If Johnny Walker, I like Johnny Walker too.
I
If
do
he
too.
was came off as serious to me, I would definitely be so behind him. He's just unserious, man.
Yeah, he's just not. He gets to where he needs to go, and he needs that extra, and he's just acting silly. And I don't know.
Silly, man.
Maybe throw him in there against Johnny Walker. Um, I would say Khalil Roundtree, but Khalil Roundtree is facing Jamal on
Khalil's trying to be serious. He's trying to be
Oh,
serious.
Khalil's he's 8 right now, and he's fighting Jamal, who's at 3 on International Fight Week. He's taking it serious.
He's
I
taking it
wish
serious.
I wish certain other people would take it serious, but regardless, very interested to also see that. We might as well just round out card main event flyweight division. We got Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez, which I'm actually really excited for. I wasn't as excited because initially you see a fight night, you see a card, and the first thing you see is, hey, who's the main event? You initially see a flyweight main event without the name Figueiredo, without the name Moreno, without the name Pantoja. And you're just like, should I be interested in this? Like, what am I really, what's drawing me in?
Right.
But with these guys, when you really look at them skill for skill, pound for pound, what they're able to do, how their fights go, how exciting they are, this is actually a good main event. And I think the odds reflect that. They got Nicolau at minus 185 right now, got Perez plus 155, so it should be a close battle. What are you thinking?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't agree at all.
What?
You already know how I feel about Alex Perez, and then you're mixing one of the
How do
probably
you feel?
most.
How do you feel about Alex Perez?
We talked about him once upon a time before, and I felt like I don't want to say he's unserious because he is serious. He's had a good come up, but when it comes to the fights that matter, he doesn't get the job done. And we saw last time, I forgot who he fought, but
Muhammad Makayev.
it was a loss.
That Muhammad Makayev, that's the Dagestani prince that was promised.
Look, I hear you, but this was Alex Perez. You know, this was a former like contender who was supposed to, be belt worthy, and I haven't seen it anytime he faces someone who has a name. He beats all the guys he should beat. Congrats, but when it comes to fighting someone who is also serious, I don't see those wins. And then you mix him with, let's just call it what it is, one of the more methodical, if you will, to be nice about it, featherweights in the division with Nicolau, who literally is going to circle and back up the entire fight until he sees an opportunity to land a right hand, and it will be one strike most likely. I'm not a fan of these individual styles, therefore I'm not a fan of these two individual fighters. If I had to pick a winner, I wish it'd be a draw, but I would go Perez.
So you did all
No, I
that.
lie. I'm not doing that because my faith isn't in Perez. I'm going Nicolau because, like I said, Perez isn't serious.
I don't know. I think, like you said, Mateus Nicolau, he definitely is a fighter that likes to fight off of the back foot. He circles around. He doesn't like to come forward, but when he strikes, he's like a viper. He strikes very fast, and he can enter when he needs to and get in. And then you got Perez, who's kind of the opposite. I don't want to say the complete opposite, but he's a much more forward, much more in your face, much more trying to find his flow without backing up. I don't know. I feel like those two styles can complement each other. Not saying they will, but I think they have the potential to.
I think Nicolau has the ability to make an exciting fighter look boring. Like there's probably some names that you would think, oh, that should be an exciting fight versus Nicolau. But the way he's consistently against the cage and always circling, then hold on. Now he's circling the other direction. The way he goes about that, like, is just okay. Like he's a viper. I'll give you that. It just happens in a singular moment. where he strikes and then maybe it's an elbow or a right hand or a left hook. Maybe it's a body shot. Never know what's going to come. But that's not championship level striking. Uh, I believe he wants to be what we call what we're saying a serious fighter, but he just isn't. This style of fighting isn't what's going to do it for him. All that said, though, he's fifth, and he's facing Perez, which, like we said, he's not serious. Therefore, it's
No,
a
we
fight
didn't say that. We
well,
didn't.
look,
You said that.
he's fight. This is Perez. I'm saying,
You said that.
and because he's unserious, he's gonna lose this fight, particularly because he's facing somebody who's ranked 5.
I don't know. I get what you're saying. I understand the narrative you're trying to create. Can't say I agree with your narrative.
Is it a narrative? I don't know.
No, because again, there's a difference between not winning the important fights and facing a bunch of savages. When we look at, for example, a Curtis Blades, guys like that who always seem to get to the top, and then when they get there, they fold.
Okay.
That happens. There's people like that. We look at Alex Perez's last 3 fights. One of them it was for the belt. It was Figueiredo. The next one was to Pantoja, who seems to be the supreme ruler of the flyweight division right now.
He is for sure.
And then the third was against Muhammad Makayev, which, he also is supposedly the next guy. He's undefeated prospect. Though all those 3 fights, he didn't look the best. He didn't look great, but they were against, these savages.
You're right.
And I mean, even before that, he was getting guys. He took out Formiga. That was a good fight. He took him out with calf kicks. He ended the fight with calf kicks. So I think John Anik said it's only happened like 11 times in the history of the sport.
He's one of them. I'll give him that.
And then on the other hand, we got Nicolau, who, again, fan friendly style, maybe not, but he gets the dubs. He's getting the wins. He has names. Manel Cop, him, Tim Elliott, Matt Schnell. He lost to Brandon Royval, but you could just see he has some of these names on his resume. I think you're kind of downplaying these guys.
If they can come out and shock me, and regardless of who wins, if I can be entertained by the fight, I will give them both some props, especially if Perez can win it. Because this narrative, as you say, I have against Perez, he is yet to show me it's not a narrative. So if he does it for sure, that will be the shocker. That while being entertaining, okay, you get some props.
I thought you were about to give out a fight night bonus.
Oh no, this is not that fight will not be that. I know that much. It will
Hey,
be entertaining. It won't be fight night bonus worthy.
Okay, hey, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna say you are, because I'm not gonna die on this hill. Definitely not gonna die on this hill. I think you might be pleasantly surprised with how their styles clash. I hope you are. I want to be surprised. I want that to go that way.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, this card, it is what it is. We got some, guys like Tim Means, veteran. Got guys like that on the card. Austin Hubbard, he was a tough finalist.
He said
Tim
Means.
This when Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler did it, so I think that was last year. We got some guys, and maybe sometimes they say the most slept on cards produce the best. Maybe
You're right. I mean, especially when you're talking about a lot of people who don't have that status yet, they're still fighting for something. So like a lot of these people have something to fight for. So you're right. There's definitely opportunity for them to shock us and really put on a great card. Never know. It could be. No, we know it won't be one of the best cards of the year. We know that much, but it could be pleasantly a decent card than we think it might be.
I actually have a question I just thought of. Let me just make a hypothetical for you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you are a prelim fighter on a card like this. Not that many names. not that much fanfare. You're in the apex. So all eyes are still on you, but it's not as much hoopla. So some might look at that as a bad opportunity as far as publicity, but some might say, hey, you have more of a stage to show yourself, show your skills, show your personality, et cetera, et cetera. If you're on this card and you're a fighter, does that go through your head when you're fighting? Are you trying to make a statement as much as getting a win? Like, how do you go about being in this situation? Are you consciously thinking of it, or are you just, hey, I'm going to go out there and do what I do. I'm going to get my win. I'm going to do what I got to do.
I think leading up to the fight, I have to go out there with the intent of I gotta put on a show because the eyes that matter will be watching the fight. Dana will be watching the fight. The behind the scenes guys that do matchups, they're watching the fight. Those are the people who eyes matter. This could be in a backyard somewhere. As long as those eyes are watching, I gotta impress them, and I'm not gonna get outshined by a name that gets a finish. Maybe my finish looks a little bit better, but because they have a name, this is gonna be so much more gravitation towards that fighter. And it happens. I mean, you get outshined by bigger names. It's the situation. But you're coming into this fight, like while you're in camp, you have to go be in camp like I have to finish this guy. I have to put on a show. I have to win this, make it look satisfying. If you end up steamrolling the guy, he didn't come with the fight, and that's unfortunate. But if you just doze right over him, it's still a statement. Even if even if you have a good fight with the guy, even in a loss, you put up a good fight, you did something for yourself, 100%. I think you have to go in there, especially on a card like this, and say, I need the people who are watching this fight, who are important, to be impressed with my performance by the time this fight is over. Because if they're impressed, I'll fight in maybe 6 more months, and then maybe a better name, and maybe a ranked fighter. I don't know. Just no telling what's gonna happen. But if they enjoy it, there's opportunity for me.
So let me just try to get into the psychology of it, because I'm very interested by this, because I think it's so easy for us, me and you, any of the fans, to say, hey, if I'm on this card, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna try to make a statement. I'm gonna do this or that. But then, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the mouth. And we've seen it happen with various other fighters who say, I'm not gonna shoot, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then they end up getting hit and they're like, hey, I need to fall back on what I know. And they do. Or we got people like Jamal Hill who are 10 toes down and they say, hey, this is UFC 300. I'm not shooting. We're going to bang out. And they try to get that viral moment and they end up being on the wrong side of it.
That's
So
true.
do you change your game plan? Are you more aggressive? Is that kind of what you're doing?
So I feel like when you're leading up to the fight, you have this mindset because once the fight starts, you're now mindless. You don't want to be in
Right.
there thinking. So if you can prepare for a month and a half, 2 months up until the fight with a particular mentality, you're going to carry that off the momentum of it into the fight. Now, if you're the fighter that starts to lose or is losing the fight with this mentality, you're probably, once you get punched, you get dazed, and you almost take that L. You're probably going to realize, oh, like you said, you're mindless. You're no longer in the thought process of I need to get this finish. You're now in the process of I need to get this win. So taking a punch will definitely have you realize, okay, new game plan. Doing Trying to stand there and bang, trying to get a flying knee finish, or trying to get a flying arm bar, maybe wasn't the greatest plan. Let me lean back into my bread and butter, and let me figure out exactly how I would do this any other day in the gym. The things I've been working on since I was a kid. That's the stuff that you need to kind of go back to once you're in the other end of it. But I believe both fighters should at least go into the fight with the mentality of I need to be victorious in a satisfying manner. But for the fighter that gets hit first, or gets put in their back first, or gets almost sub first, you're the fighter that's now at a disadvantage because the other fighter has the man has the momentum now. He has the mentality. He's on the attack, and you just realize your game plan isn't working. So that's when you hopefully get back to the corner, talk to your coaches. They tell you. Hopefully, good coaches should tell you if you should keep going with your same game plan, or if you should change it up, or watch out for little things, or whatever the case may be. But that's when a good corner should be able to direct you into how to play out the rest of the fight.
Okay, that's actually a very good point about the autopilot thing, which I completely overlooked. A lot of people forget about it because if you try to go into a fight and try to do something that you haven't trained or you're not, if you're thinking too much, you already lost. You're already slower than your opponent. And you got to go in there and act off of instincts, do off of what training you've had. So I agree. Hopefully that's what we see with this fight. I know that's how a lot of the contender fights, that's how they are described, and that's how the contestants describe it as. I can't go in there and again try all these flying knees and Superman punches if I haven't repped them in the gym Monday, Tuesday,
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm just gonna go out there and look silly. So that's definitely interesting, a new viewpoint. Hopefully they do what they got to do
Hopefully,
this
the
Saturday.
stage is yours. The eyes that matter are watching. Make the most of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it there. I mean, why don't we take a look just real quick at UFC 301? It's the next pay-per-view. It's a few weeks away, but it's never too early to look at it just to get a feel. It's in Brazil. I know you love
I
your
do.
Brazilian fighters. You're a little biased towards them. I think that's the Anderson Silva effect. For good
Maybe.
reason, for good reason. We got Pantoja, Alexander Pantoja, who we just mentioned is the supreme ruler, it seems to be, of the flyweight division. And he's facing Steve Ursig, who did he deserve it? Is he? We don't know. He's 12-1. He's a top 10 guy. I think he's literally 10.
Yeah, I think so.
But Pantoja's kind of in a spot where he's essentially cleared out like the top 10. So they had no choice but to eat. They said, hey, either we can hold him up or we can get him a fight. I'm assuming he said get him a fight. He's facing Ursig. What are your super early preliminary thoughts on this fight?
I mean, Pantoja's looked great over his past few fights. He gets it done wherever he needs to get the fight done at. He always finds a way to get you to the ground, control the fight, a little ground and pound. He has a good submission game. He'll strike with you. He'll stand there and strike with you too. Between his experience, the fighters he's faced, he's taken out some of the best in the division already. I have a hard time imagining that just on the early side, this is going to be a fighter Usyk that is the one to overcome and beat a Pantoja. So just on the early side, of course, as we get closer, things may change. We may start to hear more news. Maybe Usyk has something up his sleeve, maybe. But for the time being, Pantoja has to be the guy that people are currently putting their money on.
And it's interesting because the line minus 260, it's not crazy. We've definitely seen worse. It's not necessarily close, but it's not crazy. So maybe they know something we don't. I don't know. Time will tell. I agree. I find it hard to see him lose his belt here, but we've seen crazier. I'll
We've
tell
seen
you that.
crazier. I mean, Holly Holmes.
Yeah. We definitely have Ronda. Get her out of there. Your boy Jose, he's back. He's
He
unretired.
is. He is back. I don't know if I want him back.
I was gonna ask you.
Something about leaving retirement. Okay, so we all know about the legendary fighters that you know their life is fighting. Towards the end of it, they start taking some L's. It is what it is. They realize, it's about that time for me. You already have people who are questioning your legacy because of the way it was ending, because you were older and still fighting. But to retire and come back, I believe you can't keep losing after that. You come back because you feel yes, gas in the tank left. You believe you are better than you were at home watching these pay-per-views like, nah, I'm coming back. These guys they can't mess with me still. They can't do it. Like there's like if Jose still has that in him, then even when he left, we saw that he was still a good striker. He still had gas in the tank. He was very seasoned and experienced. He can clinch you up. If he got on top of you on a takedown, it was nothing crazy. His wrestling, I believe, is not necessarily the greatest, but it was good enough, especially at his age. But especially now, he's a good boxer still. Um, I just need his body to hold up. If it's not going to hold up, then I need you to retire again after this because it's not going to be worth watching you destroy your legacy.
Well, I will say this. Because he didn't necessarily take the Anderson Silva route. We know the way Anderson Silva went out. Hey, Anderson Silva, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
He is a top 3 all-time fighter and I think that's on everybody's list. But he went out he just stayed too long. He stayed too long. He took too many fights he didn't need to take. And he went on a crazy losing streak. The same thing with Tony Ferguson. He's on like a 7-fight losing streak. And,
that's so sad.
It is. But I will say, Jose, he was I'm not gonna say he was hot, but
he has some good ones.
If you look at his last 5 fights, he lost the belt to Peter Yan. That's when I thought he should have retired. Because that fight, I was like, man, this is hard to watch. He's getting bruised and battered on the ground. This is just hard to watch. He's at bantamweight now. Like, no, just call it a day. Get out of there. If he would have retired then, he would have been like 35-ish. Right. I would have said, hey, I don't see anything wrong with it. But he took some more fights. He fought Cheeto. He fought Pedro Munoz. He fought Rob Font. He won all 3 of those. He beat all 3 of them by decision.
Win the win.
But win's a win. He won all 3 of them. So he found himself in a title contender. Kinda. I mean, it was with Merab, and the whole Merab versus he's not going to face Aljo, because if Merab wanted a title shot after that, his fight with Jose, he would have got it. But that was essentially a title eliminator, and he lost, and he called it a day. Like he retired from that, and it was very surprising because I'm saying he is 37, he has a lot of fight miles,
a lot.
Nobody's denying that, but he was on a 3-fight win streak. But he retired. So I'm like, I don't mind it. He got put in the Hall of Fame. Everybody's fine. Next thing you know, they say the King of Rio's coming back. I'm like, I mean, I'm interested to see it. I think he still has gas in the tank.
If he can move like how he used to move, if he still has that boxing in him, then for sure it'll be worth watching. I just don't because like we talked about Tony Anderson. I don't want to keep seeing these guys who are great just going out sad. Just going out sad, man. That's not what I want to see. So look, Jose, go in there, just make it. Well, even in a loss, just show me flashes. Show me flashes. Give me some flashes of old Jose a little bit. If you can do that for me, I'll be convinced. Hey, hold on. Let's run this back again. Let's just get some other fighters in there.
This is Jose Aldo we're talking about. I don't think he stopped training at all.
That's my opinion. Or not. I don't know.
I doubt. I don't know. I doubt he stopped training. A lot of these guys retire early and they really don't want to, but they're either emotional or I think that's really what it is. It's a lot of emotion. They're saying, hey, I can't compete now. George Masvidal, he's doing the same thing. He got beat by Gilbert Burns, and he's like, if I lose this fight, I'm going to retire because I know I can't do anything. He lost, and then he retired, sat out a year or 2. He's about to box Nate Diaz, and now he's talking about, I'm going to get my BMF title back. I'm definitely making a UFC return. I think these guys just get a little emotional. They overreact. They still have gas in the tank. I think they just overreact.
I guess you're right. I would like if he's gonna retire again, I say why not go one more bout with Henry Cejudo, who's also been out here retiring lately, and have them both fight each other for whoever loses has to retire.
Well, I guess that's my next question is Joe. I mean, Jose's facing a savage in
He
Jonathan
is.
Martinez. He's on a crazy win streak. He beat Cub Swanson. He beat Said Nurmagomedov. He's a guy. But let's say Jose gets the dub here. Where does he go? Does
I'm
he
not
keep
gonna lie to you.
where does he go?
I really don't know what Jose Aldo does in a win. Because I'm assuming he's probably unranked right now because he retired. He wins that fight. Where do you even place him? Because where you place him may really determine if I think he should even keep fighting. Because if he's placed, let's say, in the back end of the top 10, he would have to get at least two, depending on how this kind of plays out, three more wins before he gets a title shot. Come on, dog. You don't. That's too much for you. If he's just here for the check, hey, do what you do. Go find you some names. Go get that check, young man, and head back to the crib and go on vacation the rest of your life. It doesn't matter at that point.
On his George St. Pierre vibe, like when
You
George
know,
came back. I don't know. I just think it's definitely think it's interesting to see Jose
back in the mix.
back in the mix. Him and Rio. I want to see him win just so he can hop the fence and run into the crowd. Because like if you're gonna retire, then it's like you might as well just do
Might as
whatever you
well
want to do.
go out on top.
That's all I'm saying. The rest of the card, I mean, they got my nemesis Anthony Smith on here.
They do.
Vitor Petrino, who is a guy that we actually covered a few weeks ago, or a month or two ago. I think Vitor is gonna not walk through him, but he's gonna get through him.
It should be a win. Michael Pereira's on the card.
Michel Pereira, that's an exciting fight, and the guy he's fighting, Ihor, he's an exciting fighter too. So that's a fight I'm really looking forward to. Even the opener, Paul Craig versus Cal Barallo. Cal Barallo, they call him like handsome Paulo because he looks like Paulo Costa, but he's like slimmer, like handsome Squidward.
That's funny.
That's what they call him. Him versus Paul Craig. Paul Craig is one of the best submissioners in the UFC to this day. Submission artist. He's been up and down lately, but that should be an exciting fight. I mean, we've got some.
It's an interesting card. Definitely worth watching. I mean, it's gonna definitely be enjoyable. Got some solid names there. Well, I'm going to the bar to watch it though. I don't know if I'm gonna spend my hard earned, but I see it. Give me a little drink. A little meal in me.
No, I'm not opposed to that either. Should be a good card. One other thing I wanted to talk about. We could talk about UFC 302. Like we could talk about that till our eyes are blue. But UFC Fight Night in Louisville, they just announced it a few days ago. UFC is going back to Louisville, Kentucky, June 8th. I'm actually trying to go to that. I have a lot of family in Kentucky. I would love to go to that, but they just announced some of the fights, which are, interesting. Your boy Dom Reyes is back. He's gonna face Dustin Jacoby. Raul Rosas Jr. He just booked his fight against Ricky Turcios.
Finally,
they were supposed to fight back in a few months ago, and then all that stuff happened. That's finally booked. Thiago Moises, Brad Katona. They got some. It's a fight night, so it's nothing crazy. But how do you feel about your guy Dom coming back?
Dom needs to make a statement. He needs to show people like this is the fight. He needs to show people like, hey, I'm still here. I have had a bad little run facing savages like all ex champions, but nonetheless the losses. He needs this one to okay, like I'm above this. You win this one, you can get your name back into the mix, the swing of things, especially based off of how the top five, especially like heavyweight, is kind of just all kind of coming after each other right now. A lot of guys who have to kind of get rearranged. Of course, with Jamal Hill fighting, like there's a lot of guys in there that kind of need to be rearranged into a correct order because everyone's kind of fought each other. Alex Pereira's kind of looking for a new challenger at this point. He's talking about one maybe heavyweight or whatnot. Like there's a lot of things going on like heavyweight. So while this is kind of being figured out, this could be Dom's time to get back into that conversation of things. So it's a big fight for Dom, I think.
He could definitely wiggle his way back in there. I don't know. I'm nervous for him, man. He's taking some vicious knockouts, like
Yes.
vicious, back to back to back. Like it's,
Yeah,
but as we saw, he took John Jones to the brink, man. I think we're all still living off that kind of
we are.
hoping that he can get back to that form. And even in his other fights, he looks good. Like he does those same things that he was doing against John Jones. He does those against the Ryan Spans, like against the Uris. He's doing those things, but he's just, I don't know if he got glass chin syndrome now. I don't know if his defense, like I don't know, but hopefully we can see him come back. I really want to see this Raul Rosa. We haven't seen him in the
We need
octagon
to,
in a minute,
man.
bro. It's been a minute. Like
There should be some elite grappling in that fight. There should be some good stuff in that fight.
oh,
Some
for
teach
sure.
tape.
It might cancel out. It might end up being on the feet.
I
Raul's a little
know,
light.
like you've talked about this fight like twice now. Like it's
I know.
finally booked again. Like this that should be some chunk right there. That should be a good fight.
Exactly. I don't even want to get too much into it just because of that. Just look at even, a little, just one more ahead. They just announced UFC 304 is going to be in Manchester, England. Tom Aspinall, the interim heavyweight champion, has came out and said that he's going to fight on the card, which you know how I feel about people defending an interim belt. That's just kind of an insane premise to me.
It is
So
actually.
it's an insane premise. I kind of get it now, though, in his situation. Although I actually don't, because John Jones is back in the gym. He's back working. He posted it. That means it's real. He's back working. His elbow surgery must have went well enough to the point where he's rehab, and he's probably still a ways away. But he's back in the gym. Why not just wait? At this point, you waited all this time. You might as well just wait.
I think he doesn't want to is because I've seen a lot of I follow John on X and or Twitter. People have been asking him about, who are you gonna fight, what are you gonna do, and people really want him to kind of skip over Stipe, and he's responded to so many people saying, "You want me to like skip out on this man's probably biggest payday, his one of his biggest fights, simply because you say so, or or one reason or another." And when you look at it that way, John Jones is the fight Stipe deserves. So naturally, I mean, that's the fight we've been waiting on for years now. I mean, why not? Like, why not run it? But then you have Aspinall just sitting in the cut, just waiting. I mean, if we're being honest, man, we really see it is if you want to keep it business. Stipe should be fighting Tom Aspinall for the interim title shot,
Yeah,
and
they should.
then
They
the
should have
winner
did
of
that.
that should be facing John Jones.
They should
But
have did
if you want to look more into the money aspect of it and who gets what, when, and where, and who, John fights Stipe. Tom risk literally everything fighting for the interim belt. Hope John still wins it. Hope you still win it, and then see each other later on. And I can only imagine that's the reason why it's this way.
That's, I don't know. Again, I actually, I will say I don't mind his approach because I don't think any of these other heavyweights really have anything for him. The one guy I thought did, Sergey, you know, they were 10 toes down round one, and Aspinall got him out of there. So I don't have any doubt. Well, I shouldn't say I don't have any doubt, but I'm pretty confident that even if he takes this fight in 304, that he'll find his way back to the belt anyways. But I mean, there's only two people he's gonna fight. There's only literally two people he can fight, and that's Curtis Blades, Cyril Gane.
I think Jan already said no. which is
Do you,
crazy. I
you hear
think God
why he
said
said
no.
no?
I saw a post on Twitter that was why didn't Gon fight Tom? And it was a little article. I didn't look into it to see how true and false it was, but to my understanding, Cyril Gahn denied that fight. He
You,
didn't want to fight.
you want to know why? Supposedly,
No, I'm not gonna lie to you. Hey, it's 100%. If that is true, 100%, 100%.
bro. He's supposedly filming a movie,
That's it. I read that. You're right. He's filming a movie. That's why he didn't want to fight.
which again, I didn't, cite this source and dive into its credibility, but it seems to seem that he was trying to film he's trying to film a flick, trying to be a star.
He's not
Has
serious anymore. He ain't
Passed
serious.
up on, and bro. He hasn't been serious since Francis Ngannou out grappled him for 2 rounds to secure or 3 rounds to secure a UFC championship. That's when he realized he wasn't serious. Then he's like, you know what? I might be serious. Then he fought John Jones and he got embarrassed low key on pay-per-view again. And that's when he was like, okay, maybe I'm taking this UFC stuff too serious. I need to, I need to spread myself a little thinner, get some film here,
Find
start
some other avenues of pay.
start streaming on Twitch for my FIFA, just in case, stuff like that. I'm being hard on Gon just because I don't even know if this is true or not, but it would be certainly funny if it was. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, like I said, other than that, Curtis Blades,
Yeah.
Tom Aspinall, which
Which
I'm not
I don't think
against.
I don't think that's a Tom, like he can. I don't think that's like definitely Tom. I don't think
Yeah.
Tom is like for sure the winner of that matchup. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Curtis has a path to a win here.
Oh, for sure. I just don't. It's Tom has the advantage on the feet for sure. I'll say Curtis has better wrestling, but Tom is also black belt, so doesn't bode super well for Curtis. But hey, I'm a Curtis guy. I like Curtis. I think he has a good chance to make something shake here. That would be that'd be a crazy upset though.
That would be. Oh man, I'd be hurt if I was Tom taking that L. You gotta restart, but now you're 2 fights away. Now you're 2 fights away to having to run that back.
Bro, Curtis Blades steals your interim belt, then fights John Jones. I don't want to see that. That's not what I want to see.
Definitely do not want to see that
I don't want to see Curtis Blades versus John Jones. I'll tell you
at
that
all.
much. But I mean, it would be cool to see John get another, defense to just strengthen his legacy. That'd be cool. But other than that,
Facts. I
yeah,
guess so. Yeah.
but we don't need to see that. So I would need Tom to go ahead and take care of that. Make this heavyweight division a little more serious, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, that's pretty much that on that, man. We got some. There's a lot of other fights this summer we could talk about. We could go on for the next 4 hours talking about 302 Islam versus Dustin. They're going to Perth and I think UFC 306. We got some stuff on the horizon. But yeah, let's move on to our final segment, man. Debate of the day. Got a nice little debate here, and I was just thinking about this earlier. There's just a lot of greats in the UFC, man. There's a
Yeah.
lot of greats. It's a young sport. You think of these sports like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB. They got guys like Otto Graham. They got guys like Babe Ruth. They got guys like Oscar Robinson and Wilt Chamberlain, who were way back in the day are pillars for the sport now. The UFC doesn't really have that. This is a young sport. It's only 30 something years old. That being the case, all these sports have a Hall of Fame, the UFC included.
Right.
They've, been inducting people left and right, it seems.
A little bit.
And I guess some people would say maybe they need to slow down. Some people are fine with it. Where do you stand on this as far as the UFC Hall of Fame and the standard to get in?
They need to definitely they need to figure out the standard. They have to. They need to. I get the pioneer thing because they have separate wings. They have a
They do.
pioneer wing, they have a modern era wing. I understand the pioneer wing, even though after recently looking back into it, that pioneer wing makes almost like the sense it makes is almost as bad as the modern era wing too. They're like you realize like they kind of threw people in here a little bit, like off of almost just straight name. Uh, The pioneer wing is to me is almost atrocious. The modern era wing makes a lot more sense. I understand it a little bit better. I do think it's still necessarily not the greatest, but the pioneer wing is nasty. It's nasty.
Nasty though.
It's nasty.
That's kind of, you know, I feel like that might be a little. I don't want to say disrespectful, but
No, it's gross. The reason I particularly call it nasty because there's one fighter that's in there that really I think he's there because of a single win. I think Matt Sarah is quite literally there because of a crazy win over what Matt was it Matt Hughes or GSP
GSP.
over GSP. But outside of that one win, I don't know why he's in there. I get the Manny Coutures, I get Mark Coleman, the Tito's, the Mats, the Chucks. I get that. You have Minotauro in there. Off of legacy, I guess I understand, but if we're talking, but like in the I don't. He didn't have like a great title ring. He did like his. I don't. He was a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. Definitely was always in the mix. I don't think he did necessarily enough in the UFC. If we're gonna talk about his legacy, everything he has done his whole career, sure, but I don't think he's did enough necessarily. And the thing about it is, if we're going to use that standard and use people's like full legacy, then it kind of has an issue there with the modern wing because you have guys like Rashad Evans in the modern wing, but then you don't have a guy like Rampage Jackson in the modern wing, and it's like, so like, what are we basing this off of? Like Rampage has just as many good wins. Probably I'd say more good wins than Rashad Evans does, but Rashad's a Hall of Famer and Rampage isn't. If you don't want to use the Pride days, though the UFC purchased those fighters from Pride, if you don't want to use those Pride days, sure, understandable. Even if that's the case, Rashad doesn't have those key moments, especially early in his career, like Rampage did against Vanderlei Silva, against those chunkers against Chuck Liddell. Like I don't know, it's kind of just like what are we basing this off of? Like how are we deciding these fighters are Hall of Famers or not? It almost makes me mad because you. Based off the names that are in the modern and or pioneer wing, it really kind of opens the door for almost anybody to be a Hall of Famer.
Whoa, okay. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. I will say this. One thing I have noticed, and I agree, I'm not a huge fan of the standard, but I do get it. We're talking about guys like Matt Sarah, who, when we talk about the pioneer wing, talking about the pioneers of the sport,
Okay.
you know, who built this, when it was young, who cultivated it. Matt Sarah, he didn't have the best career that we've seen. That's why he's not in the modern wing. There are guys from his era that are in the modern wing. He's not in that, but he was the first tough winner to win tough and then go on and win the championship. And I think in Dana's mind, in the UFC's mind, that's such a big accomplishment, which it is. Because that is a very big accomplishment. Because I think things like that paved the way for the Contender Series. If you've seen
Okay.
how Dana White treats the Contender Series and how he always talks about this pay-per-view or something features this many people from the Contender Series. We've had this many Contender Series fighters go on to fight for the belt. Da, 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 da. That all started with a guy, Matt Sarah, who won the Ultimate Fighter and then won the title. Same thing with Rashad, who his situation is a little different. We talked about, what separates him from Rampage, because Rampage also won a title, but
Exactly.
Rashad, he won the Ultimate Fighter, so he gets that extra nod. You win the Ultimate Fighter, you automatically almost have an in to get into the Hall of Fame. You just have to obviously continue with it. But I don't know. I see guys like that. We got Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes. I don't have a problem. I think the modern wing, if anything, is the problem. And it's really not. I mean, look at the modern wing.
That's a problem too. I'm not gonna lie to
Who
you.
are you looking at the modern wing? Who are you taking out of the modern wing?
Okay, let's see.
Because I mean, the only people I feel like you could have
No
an
one want to
argument
name
for
immediately.
would be Cowboy.
Cowboy.
I feel like he'd be, but we look at Cowboy's accomplishments, man.
Hold on. Actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm sorry, but also Forrest Griffin. Because hold on, let me tell you, if you're gonna allow Forrest Griffin and Donald Cerrone, I think you have to ask yourself. Mind you, I am against this person also being in the Hall of Fame. But if you're gonna allow Cerrone and Forrest Griffin, why isn't Brock Lesnar in there? Or why aren't you gonna allow Junior Dos Santos or Cain Velasquez in there? Like it's just these are heavyweights that were before there was a Stipe. It was Kane. It was no one's better than Kane. It was Junior Dos Santos probably is the next best name to probably go against Kane and win, which I believe he did win one by knockout. But outside of those two fighters, before them, it was Brock Lesnar. And you're talking about a division that was molded. I mean, Brock Lesnar made the heavyweight title. Hold on. Actually, let's start earlier than that. Brock Lesnar being in the UFC brought in so many fans. So many fans from the WWE.
That's not all it's about, though.
You're right, but okay, you're right. There's a little branch off, but Conor McGregor is gonna be a Hall of Famer, and that's gonna be one of his main arguments. I'm just saying we don't got to go down that path right
It's not
now.
gonna be his main argument, though.
It's gonna be a big part. It's gonna be a big part. It's gonna be a big part of his argument.
And he's an outlier because he's the literal number one MMA athlete in the history of the sport. So it's a little different with him.
In what regard do you mean that?
He is
As far as star power?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Is UFC.
Okay, bet. If that's the case, before there was Conor McGregor, there was Brock Lesnar. It was Brock Lesnar. People knew John Jones, people knew Anderson Silva for their great accomplishments. But if you weren't a UFC fan, you just heard their names and just knew they were good fighters. People said, Brock Lesnar's fighting? Maybe this is worth tuning into. Maybe this is worth watching. Brock Lesnar was Conor before there was Conor. He brought in, I can't even imagine how many fans from WWE who wanted to see him actually get down and really fight. Think about that. You are one of the best WWE superstars. You decide to go on a hiatus for a few years and join the UFC, and you become champion and defend the championship. I mean, come on, man. How does he not? He has defenses. He has a championship. He's a belt. He defended. And then also, two fighters I think are better than him, Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez, which before there was Stipe, Cain was probably the best heavyweight we've ever seen. I just don't know, man. Like I don't know what are we using to really determine these fighters being Hall of Fame worthy or not. Because I can create arguments based off of the people that are in there. Not saying that Forrest Griffin isn't. He's done some great things. Donald Cerrone's done some great things. So is Junior Dos Santos, Brock Lesnar, and Cain Velasquez.
Well, first off, Brock Lesnar went 5-3. That's his MMA record. I can't put him in the UFC, the Hall of Fame, with the 5-3 record. Because I agree. Hey, if we're talking about who defended the belt, then that opens up a huge can of worms. Huge can of worms. Certain people are going to be locked into being Hall of Famers that maybe shouldn't be. But, As far as star power, I mean, it's not star power alone that gets you in the Hall of Fame. It's a combination of things. And it's not always skill. Guys like Cain Velasquez, who I still think can get in the Hall of Fame. Junior Dos Santos, I don't know. But I think Cain has a great, I wouldn't say great chance to get in. He has a good chance to get in. It's not
He should be
always
first
about,
ballot.
you said what?
She should be first ballot.
First ballot?
It should have been
Dude,
like
dude.
after like the NFL after 4 years should have been like, okay, all right, guess it's Kane's turn.
First
Just,
ballot?
just throw him in there.
No, and I think a first ballot, I think of guys like Habib, Daniel Cormier.
Oh man, thank you for saying that name because you just opened up a whole can of worms. If you are going to put Khabib in there, how are you not okay with like, you're okay with it, but how is Cain Velasquez not there?
On what premise? Like, what do you mean?
We're about to go down
Like,
the rabbit hole. We're about to do it today. I see you're about to do it.
I don't get I don't get it. What you're saying?
Khabib, man, he has some really good wins. He does. He didn't defend long. He has maybe 4 or 5 fights that were really great fights, good wins. Outside of that,
He's got more than 5, but go off.
outside of that, he beat me and you.
He didn't though. Bro, again, if that was the case, then everybody would have an undefeated record and retire undefeated. Like if
I
that
don't,
if
I
that
don't
was the
want to tear
case,
down other fighters to make my point here because between Wei Yuri, those are two fighters that had came into the UFC with really great records already in the first place. Less than 8, 7, 6 losses coming to the UFC with a lot of wins. Granted, they weren't undefeated, I guess, but those are two fighters that came into the UFC with a lot of wins. These were people that had to make their way. Yuri had to make his way. Whaley had to make her way.
what do you mean Yuri had to make his way? What does that mean?
What do you mean? Yuri
Yuri
had to
got
fight. He had to get there.
Yuri got gifted a title shot. He had like 2 fights in the UFC and then he got a title shot.
It was at a time where light heavyweight was even at a worse stage than it is right now. I will give you that. But since then up until now, he's having wars with some of the best. He's fighting some good fighters, getting knockout, being exciting while doing it. I'm not making a case for him to be Hall of Famer. I'm not making that case. I'm just saying that if we're gonna look at the whole, he was undefeated and he had all these wins. It's just the issue of who he fought for those wins. Because if we're not gonna, I'm not gonna go down this path. You're talking about Yuri and Whaley, give them a case right now yet. But I don't think we can look at Khabib's record and be like, oh man, he's undefeated. He did all this. He fought a lot of nobodies. A lot of nobodies on that list. A lot of nobodies on that list.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna say this. He's the most dominant fighter that we've seen in the UFC. As far
It's
as
won a lot of
pure,
rounds.
so what?
It's won a lot of rounds.
As far as pure dominance, the most. And I'm gonna name a few people that he's fought. And he, like I said, he's lost, I think, 2 rounds in his MMA career. So again, just bear with me. You got Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. Everybody can talk. You could say whatever you want about Ally Quinta. Ally Quinta, well, he wasn't necessarily in those same categories, but he's a name that everybody recognizes and everybody respects.
I'll give you that. He's a name people recognize.
Ally Quinta, Michael Johnson, Edson Barbosa, Rafael dos Santos. What about Michael Johnson?
Michael Johnson, like
Guy that knocked out Poirier?
he's a name people know. Yes, he kind of falls into that Alaquinta category of like he's a name people recognize. Yes, but I don't know if I want to give him quite the credit.
Man, I get it. I'm just saying he's the most dominant champion fighter that we've seen from a stylistic standpoint. His resume could have been greater. That's why I ultimately think Islam's going to pass him up, because Islam's resume by the time he's done, because he's not going to retire early or do any of that. I think by the time Islam's done, his resume is going to be better than Habib's. So I agree, resume could have been better, but I don't know how being the most dominant stylistic fighter probably in the history of the organization gets you questioned to get into
Look, I will agree that
Hall of Fame.
he will be a Hall of Famer. He will be a Hall of Famer.
He is already. He got
Yes,
inducted. He is.
you're right. You're right. He has a lot of things that do go for him. I do think he has conversations that also go against him. But all in all, overall, I agree. He is a Hall of Famer. It's just the simple fact that the premise, the domination aspect of it is what I think cements him in there. Because I think there is an argument about everything else outside of he's only lost 2 rounds ever. I think that is what puts him in there, like guaranteed. So
I
I'll give
mean,
him that. I'll give him that.
yeah.
Yes.
I also don't understand the correlation, but because you were saying, oh, if Habib's in there, then Kane's got to be in there.
Because Kane's done more in his career. He has all these finishes. He held the title longer. He was more I don't want to say more exciting because that's subjective, but like I mean, let's be honest, he was more exciting. He was very dominant on the ground. He was a really good wrestler. He had one of the best cardio we've ever seen. He and captured especially at that time, what it meant to be a champion of a division. Like guys, you're going up against him. Like I don't know how he beats this guy. I don't know how he beats Kane because Kane has good grappling. He's one of the best strikers. He has great cardio. He has great wrestling. He at this time before there was a Khabib to be the most dominant. I mean outside of course Anderson and John who were like 2 of the goats. Kane was a very dominant champion. I don't know how he like you already gave him his credit. You said he probably is a guy who should get in there. I'll give you that, but I think he should have already been in there. He should have already be a Hall of Famer.
Well, I also think the UFC is very weird about their stipulations on when people get in, because I mean Habib retired in 2020 and he was in 2 years later.
Right.
You got guys like Jens Pulver who just got in I think last year. So I don't really know if it's not like the NFL where you wait 5 years after retirement. I mean, Jose he literally retired last year. He's in the Hall of Fame and then he unretired. Now he's fighting. So he's, I don't know. I still think there's a lot of time for guys like Kane. I will say he's facing an uphill battle because there's only one. I mean, at least I don't know when he debuted though, because
I think he was like a 09 maybe guy.
oh yeah, then he'll be in the modern wing then, because the modern wing is debut after 2000. There's only one heavyweight in the UFC Hall of Fame in the modern wing, and that's DC, and he was, double champ, both light heavyweight, so defenses. So
doesn't that feel kind of wild to you? He's the only heavyweight Hall of Famer.
I mean, yeah, it's a young Hall of Fame though. I think they just kind of started doing it not too long ago.
I'll give you that. Look, like I said, because I guess technically Randy Couture, I think his younger days fought heavyweight, but that was like that's a era where it was a lot different.
Well, in the whatchamacallit, in the
modern
Pioneer wing, you got guys.
Oh, you're right. There are a few guys in the Pioneer. There are a few heavyweights actually.
Yeah, in the Pioneer wing, it's a little different. But if he would be in the modern wing, I don't know if there's a difference between, hey, we're gonna let. I mean, there were probably more heavyweights that were more prevalent back then. I don't know. I know one thing. I'm not letting Brock Lesnar in there. I'll tell you that much.
I started by saying I wouldn't let him in. But just for argument's sake, it feels like, one of the most watched athletes, brought a lot of views to your cards.
It's not all about
He
views.
title defenses. I'm just saying.
It's not all about views. It's not all about skill. It's about the combination. It's not like the NFL where, Marvin Harrison Sr., who said 2 words his whole NFL career, but was one of the best receivers ever. He walks into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's like that in the UFC. I think Habib, as dominant as he was, he also brought the most eyes to the sport that we've ever seen in combination with his Conor McGregor saga and just all of that. So I think it's a combination between skill and star power. I think you need both. But
I'm very curious to see who else to let in.
yeah, I'm definitely intrigued as well. Vanderlei Silva's in there. That's tough. Can't let you get close.
Man,
Right?
I
They need
love
to
that. I
let they
love
need to
that
let Uncle
one.
Chael in there.
Wait
They need to let,
one
they,
second,
they need to let Uncle Chael in there.
bro. Come on now, man.
Where
They
he's
don't. They do not need to allow him in there.
undefeated, undisputed. They're not gonna let him in.
They do
That's
not need to let that man in the Hall of Fame, bro. He can stay. He can be a personality. He can stay a personality in the media. But
I'm gonna be
if I
real.
see him in the Hall of Fame, the floodgates are opened.
Technically, he is a Hall of Famer because
A
they
fight.
just inducted his fight with Anderson in there.
His fight's in the Hall of Fame. He's not. He's Hall of
He's
Fame
a
fight.
Hall of Famer though. You could definitely say you're a Hall of Famer if your fight's in the Hall of Fame, and that's a fact. You
I
can't.
don't. I don't know. We may have to argue, but we may have to argue about that another time. I'm gonna have to really dissect that because I don't. I have to see what fights are in the Hall of Fame, and do I agree that some of these fighters are worth calling Hall of Famers? Because I don't know.
We're not gonna get into it, but I just want to give a few examples. I'm not even gonna reply. I'm gonna just see your thoughts. John Jones, Alex Gustafson.
For sure, a Hall of Fame fight. Gustafson being a Hall of Famer. uh,
Um, Diego Sanchez, Clay Guida.
Another great name that I should have thought about as far as our Hall of Fame conversation. Clay Guida. Great fight. I don't want to call Diego Sanchez a Hall of Famer.
I I get what you're saying because saying Hall of Famer Diego Sanchez, that sounds crazy. But
You think it was crazy?
I guess if you're Diego Sanchez, you're
I'm
saying I'm a
Diego.
Hall of Famer. I'm in the Hall
See,
of
I'm
Fame.
in the Hall of Fame. No. I can't. I can't. I'm not letting
I
him get
am,
that
bro. My
off. I'm
fight,
not letting him
my
get that
fight
off.
is in there.
Because he's gonna tell me that, and I'm gonna have to go to the website and look. If I don't see his name in Modern Wing, we got beef.
It's in the fight section. The fight. There's 3 wings. There's
He's gonna
4 wings.
say it's in the fight section. I'm gonna be like, oh, so I'm gonna say, oh, your fight's in the Hall of Fame. He's
Yes,
gonna
I
say, I
had.
mean, that's me, isn't it? And I'm gonna be like, bro, like, come on, like, dog, come on.
I'd say you know how many fights have been in the UFC. Can you count how many fights have been in the UFC? There's like 10 in the Hall of Fame, and I'm one of them. That's what I would say. That'd be my argument.
And I'll be like, that's a great fight. Great fight you were a part of. That's a Hall of Fame level fight. Good job. That's a great fight you put
That's
on.
it is the Hall of
I
Fame level.
don't know if I want to call you a Hall. I'm not gonna lie. I thought there was more fights in the Hall of Fame. I will say that.
Nah, like I said, they just added Chael and Anderson, which Chael should have won. If I could
Nope.
change the outcome of one fight, it might be that one.
Well, you would put a lot of people, make a lot of people sad. That would
But
change the course of history forever.
oh, it would have, but
That would change the course of history.
yeah, we'll have to dive into the whole fight aspect of it at a later date, man. That's a good episode. We just got some good chunk in. Um Excited for what's coming up. Sneaky good card tomorrow. Like I said, I'm gonna be tuned in. So
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch. I'm gonna see what's going on. Gotta go watch the women's fight because that's gonna be, I think, pretty exciting. I gotta tune in to see Perez lose because that's just what happens these days. And yeah, man, it's gonna be, I think, better than people think it's gonna be. But overall, to be honest, I don't think it's gonna be. It's just crazy to come from 300 to this. It's
right.
unfortunate.
The Perez hate's a little wild to me, but I understand. I respect it. Yeah, that's it, y'all. We will see y'all next week. Excited for it. Signing off.